Good morning, everyone. Good to see everybody in the crowd this morning. Let's start the Ellis County Commission. All those capable, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And Bobby, do the roll call.
Commissioner Neil Younger,
Present.
Chair Michael Burgess,
Here.
Commissioner Nathan Liker.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Changes order of business. Okay. Be kind of a slight adjustment to, I believe, is anybody here to speak on Wiles Road specifically? I don't believe so. So we're gonna, that agenda item, we're not gonna take it off, but we're gonna, it's not gonna address Wiles Road specifically. We're just gonna talk about private roads in the county and on that agenda item. So a slight adjustment as far as what the agenda topic is. And I don't believe we have an executive session today. No?
Nope.
Okay, just a normal agenda day. Prior minutes, any changes are needed for those?
No changes.
Prior minutes are approved then. Consent agenda.
I'll move to approve consent agenda items A through G.
I will second that.
Okay, got a motion and a second on the consent agenda. Any discussion on those items?
No.
No discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
No opposed, passes 3-0. Issues for persons not on the order of agenda. So public would like to address the commission. Okay. Moving on, monthly financial report. Any
I have no concerns.
comments?
I have nothing.
I think we're running pretty well within budget for the year, so appreciate that.
Yep.
And so we'll start with outside agencies. We heard from a couple last week, so we'll hear for a few more today. And I will start with the Humane Society.
Good morning. My name
morning.
is Jessica Freed,
Morning.
and I am here to represent the Humane Society of the High Plains this morning. Today, we are coming in and requesting funding to help assist us with the care of the strays from within Ellis County. This year, we are asking for the same amount as we had in previous years, which is $2,600. A couple notes for you. Let's see. Within the last year, 2024, we took in 54 dogs or puppies and 36 cats or kittens from strays from within Ellis County. That average cost of care for those animals is $10,620. That does not include any immediate veterinary care cost for emergency care. That is just the basics that we give, which is the boarding and cost of Bordetella, which is a mandatory vaccine that has to be given to all strays in a facility such as ours by the state. Each year, it seems like we're getting a few more animals abandoned in the county. Luckily, this last year, it was a little bit less than previous years. But out of the 90 strays that were picked up, only 18% of them were actually returned to their owners. The rest were turned over to the Humane Society, and we found homes for them. Within the packet you may have received, you can see some of the average cost of what it takes to care for those animals, for an individual animal. For an unclaimed dog, it's about $118 per dog, and it's the same for cats. We appreciate all the costs that we have been given to help cover that financial burden that we take on from the strays that are within our county. And I want to thank you for your time to consider us today. The only other thing I wanted to kind of show you guys, which you might have at the end of your packet, is a couple of strays that came in through our shelter within the last year. One of them, her name is Velvet. She was a 5-week-old German Shepherd Lab mix puppy. She was about 4 to 5 weeks old, and she was left outside our door 2 days after Christmas. She luckily was in good health other than being dehydrated and very hungry, but she did have to stay at our shelter for a few extra weeks past that stray hold because according to state law, we are not allowed to adopt an animal out prior to 8 weeks of age. But she grew fast and ate a lot, and we were able to find a home for her. The next one on there is Lucky. He was a 4-month-old kitten that was actually found by an individual on New Year's Day. outside of our shelter. It was actually down by the end of our driveway by the highway. He was found with a cone on, wearing a onesie, and missing part of his leg from a partial amputation. It looks like there was pretty severe infection in the leg. I'm assuming somebody had this kitten, he got hurt, they did the surgery, and it got to the point where they couldn't afford his care anymore, so they decided to leave him at our doorstep. We took him immediately to the vet and ended up having the rest of his leg amputated to prevent further infection from spreading. We took that financial cost on ourselves, and luckily, after about 2 weeks, that kitten was ready to go again, was running and playing with the other kittens in our cat room, and was able to find a home as well in our town. We've had many more strays come through our doors. Most of them, luckily, don't need the extent of care that these two did. But it is an issue that I just want to bring to your attention and let you know that we are doing everything we can to help all of the animals within Ellis County and Hayes community, including the ones that are just left without any help. So that's all I have for today. Do you have any questions for me?
How many kittens do you guys disperse, I mean, out to the public that are adopted?
So I can tell you, as of today, I have 30 kittens waiting to find homes. For within the last year, let's see if I can find my original page. Within the last year, for stray kittens, we had, it looks like, 16, about 25 that came in that were actual just kittens within the last year that were strays dropped off. And this year, we are just having a booming kitten season. So they're not all strays right now that came to us, but we have had lots of mama cats come in as strays and have plenty of kittens. So we are very full and busting at the seams. So if anybody wants a kitty, I can help you out with that.
Yeah, you already did. My wife is a sucker for that, but anyhow, thank you.
All right, anybody else, any other questions?
I think we'll be out for a cat too here. We've been looking to adopt. One of the questions I have, because as we were looking to adopt, there are some animals that say like manager approval. Could you explain what that is?
Yeah, so it really depends. Manager approval are just more situations we feel are a little bit more delicate, and we need to be more thorough in our vetting. As of right now, the manager approval animals that we have actually were animals that were seized from the Rush County seizure that happened back in March. Those animals are manager approval, one, because of the situation they came from, but also because we have been informed that those individuals are trying to actively get them back and sending in other people in their place to try to get them. So we kind of did that as like a way of that we can, like I said, be a lot more thorough on who's taking them and make sure that they're not going to end up in that situation again. But manager approval can also mean that an animal has like a medical issue that's going to need extra care. We had a stray actually this year that came in. She was a little Yorkie that got picked up right on the edge of town. She had pretty severe cancer all throughout her abdomen. We were able to remove it. Luckily, it was all benign, but we had to do a manual approval for that dog specifically because everybody loves a Yorkie, but that's a lot of additional cost to have to take on, especially if you got to make sure that it's not going to come back. So usually it's a medical reason. Sometimes it's a behavioral, but that's usually why we do the management approval ones.
I just lost my train of thought with that story. I'm sorry. I'll have to follow up with you. I'm sorry.
That's okay. That's all right.
Sorry.
Thank you for coming.
I appreciate your guys' time. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Grow A's?
Good morning, Commissioners. Doug Williams,
Morning.
Executive Director of Grow Hayes. I have with me David Klingon and James Robin today, a couple of our guys. I had previously sent a request being very intent that I didn't ask for more than we got last year, and I managed to ask for more than we got last year. So I have circulated a different letter this morning, and we are requesting $165,000, the same amount that was given last year. Last week, I gave a presentation on our activities and what we have going on. Tried to answer any questions, but I would be happy to address any questions that may have come to mind since last week's discussion, as well as if you've had a chance to look at our annual report, if anything came up in that regard. So don't want to take up a lot of time, but I don't want to leave you with any unanswered questions or any unanswered thoughts at this point. So would be happy to address anything you had.
At this time, I don't believe so. I think we had a good conversation last week, and then personally,
Yes.
between you and David, so I think I'm good on questions.
Okay?
Me as well.
Okay.
I'm
We
good.
absolutely appreciate your support. We view the county and the city and the other cities in our community as partners in what we do. You're critical to what we do, and without you all, we would not be able to function the way we are, and we wouldn't be able to have the successes that I believe we've had. So thank you very much for that.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Doug.
Ellis County Historical Society.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
Amanda Rupp with the Ellis County Historical Society. And like Doug, I think you guys are familiar with what we've been doing. I come before you guys and other agencies in the town and talk about what we've been up to. But today I would like to take a little bit of opportunity to just review some of the funding sources or the public funding that we've gotten from Ellis County and the city over the past few years, just for those that haven't been following our plight and our circumstances, and for I think the commissioners that weren't even here when I started, just to give a little bit of that. We are requesting a higher amount than we received last year, but I wanted to go back and talk about the highest public funding that the Historical Society has received that I could find was around 2015. I believe it was about $120,000 from the county and $11.5 from the city. And what they did with that money was they had 6 employees, 3 of which were full-time, no benefits. They were, keeping the building and the Hayes site going. But the main thing that they had, I think the county stepped up with offering them extra support was because they were utilizing an off-site facility for storage of their artifacts, massive artifacts, to the tune of $18,000 a year. Those artifacts are just sitting in another building and not being used. And so the return for the investment that the county was getting was a few of the programs. That building was open to the public 6 or 7 days a week with those staffers. I think they got, it was a static building and got less than 1,500 visitors a year. They had no fundraising events but maybe some raffles and stuff throughout the year, and there was no capital campaign going on. Skip ahead to 2016 through 2020, obviously there was a huge failure in the building, a lot of decline, and the funding from the county and the city both reflected that, obviously. The city was still allocating about the county was allocating about $73,000, and the city $3,000 at that time, which paid the utilities for those buildings, but nothing for staff. In 2021, when the new board and myself took over the reins, we were operating with that same funding allocation from the public side and a very little stipend from memberships that we could bring in. But the return out of those few years, we have focused on the capital campaigns and building a future of sustainability for that entity. And over the past 5 years, over the past 3 years and the next 2 years, we will put over $2 million in capital funds into rehabilitating 2 buildings in the county. And that's ongoing, and I think I've said this once before, but this last year, just $90,000 of that has come from private funds outside of Ellis County. I think it was 2 years ago, increased funds from the county went to from $73,000 to $110,000. However, unless I'm mistaken, and I'll take the extra 10, this graph is wrong. Last year for 2025, I believe we were only allocated 100 instead of 110. So I don't know if my numbers are wrong or if that graph was a holdover from 2024. But with that amount and the city's 21,000, we now have 5 employees, only one of which is full-time. The other 4 work less than 24 hours a week or 25 hours a week. And we've had to, last year, around Christmas time, we were always watching our budget, so we cut those hours. And now, again, this June, we're starting to cut the hours already, just so that we can make ends meet with the other stuff. You know, this is always the best time of the year. The children are out, it's heating up, and it's budget time, the best time to talk about money, obviously. But we come to the county to ask for public funding because for those that are not in the nonprofit sector or in the quality of life area of asking for public funding, the grant funds that we ask for most generally do not cover operating costs, and they're hard to come by. We do have an annual fundraising event now. We do have a higher membership and sponsorship dedicated support that we have, but bottom line is you can't burn a candle at both ends for very long. The focus from our supporters right now are giving to those capital campaigns, and we appreciate all that. So that's why we come this year, hopefully, asking for a larger allotment than the 100 from last year. We would like to, obviously in 2026, our facility in Hayes will be open full-time, or hopefully, with more opportunities to collaborate with other entities in Ellis County, provide more programming, increase our endowment, hopefully someday. Maybe before I retire, it will be completely endowed funded, and I won't have to come over here and ask for any money. But we hope that the county sees that it's an exciting time to be part of the Historical Society. It's a good investment for quality of life, and right now it's one of the few places that we can obtain these kinds of funds. So I would stand for any questions, comments, jokes, tap dance. I don't sing. Or you don't want me to anyway.
Again, I have to brag on you. What you jumped into, you were very successful, and you're still
Thank
just
you.
beating everything up. I appreciate that.
What I really don't want to do, and this is the worst part of anybody's job, is asking for funds, but I really don't want all that work to sit there in a stagnant building again that can't be opened because of funding, and I can't do it by myself. And as we build and build and build, we build our capacity to earn more, but that we are going to deplete what's left of our reserve. In 2021, when I got there, we were utilizing a little bit of the smaller amounts of public funding, but we were also utilizing some COVID relief funding, and we had a cushion of about $23,000 that they had invested from years prior. That was for general operating, and we have not touched that, and we will have to touch that this year, and that will be the depletion of our cushion. So, we will continue to find other ways to fund, but this is my plea to the county and to anybody else that needs to know what we're doing and where we're at. So,
What kind of attendance are you getting?
I looked at those numbers when I looked at previous years, and I see them getting 1,100 to 1,500 people through the door, and I think they were counting their open house that they have in the Christmas time, which is a free event. We're getting, I think last summer it was somewhere around over 100 visitors a month. We weren't open. I mean, we had that little small exhibit downstairs in the basement. I fully anticipate to have more. Besides that, we do a lot more collaborating than I believe that the previous did. Working with the other agencies, the Hayes Public Library, and hosting some of their events. And we've got multiple committees that are out there doing outreach and being a part of other programming than while we don't have enough people, or we don't have enough things to bring into our own facility. So I can't wait to show you those numbers in a year or two, because I really think those will.
Yeah, you have
Awesome.
proven yourself. It just
Yeah.
keeps, very good. Thank you.
Thanks.
What are some of the programs you have going on right now? Some of the highlights?
Well, some of the highlights is we will be opening our the building completely with the new gallery. Will be opening January 20th. A new exhibit is we got that's the extent of the operating costs that grants provide. A Midwest Energy grant and a Heartland grant helped us pay for, to rent a large display from the Smoky Hill Museum so that we don't have to put one up while we're working on other things this summer. And so that's called A Place to Call Home. In our large sanctuary area, or that used to be a sanctuary, it's going to be a replica of a full-size covered wagon that you can get on and play on and stuff. I don't know if you noticed this, it was floating around social media, but Pete Felton once worked in denim, and we have his life-size denim buffalo that just came back to the county after about 45 years. So we just finished up with Pioneer Day here in April, and we saw about 157 third graders. And then we're continuing to work with building that site over in Victoria. So
Okay.
the other big thing is the planning for the sesquicentennial. We have a large group of community members that have just come together to form that, and we've got programming planned for next summer, which is a all-day outside. They call it Kinderfest. They're calling it Kinderfest for children. We are going to have multiple things through the rec, utilizing their kitchen to teach people how to cook, and we're also developing with the high school students the German teacher books. They've interviewed a couple of the older generation Volga Germans in this community about their times, and they've taken those and put them into stories, books that we're going to publish and produce for children's stories that teach them a little bit of German and talk about life in the past. So.
Okay. Well, thank you.
Thank you, Amanda, for presenting and giving us the information again. I appreciate that you're transparent and your budget's in here and we can see the numbers, so I appreciate
Thanks.
what you do as far as your day-to-day work as well. So,
No tap
appreciate
dance?
As far as
Sorry.
any advertisement along Interstate Victoria, is there anything in the planning for that?
Yes, a billboard on Interstate is about $5,000 a year, or
Yep.
$5,600 a year, and that's not necessarily in our budget. There's a tourism grant that I'm applying for in August that will help out with some of that. However, the Historical Society can't apply for that grant because we just got $35,000 from tourism for Victoria, so we're not allowed, so I'll be applying through a different agency. But hopefully, we're gonna put a billboard up on the interstate, and, you know, we do have a nice relationship with the radio station. We buy a percentage of, and then they, as part of a sponsorship, they add to those things. And 2 summers ago, when we were barely open, I would hear people come off the interstate, and I was like, how did you hear about us? Oh, we heard it on the radio. I was like, people still listen to the radio? Excuse me, if anybody's out there. But, oh, yeah, they heard it on the radio. And they just came in just to see. But, yeah, we have a lot of visitors that, you know, will hear about us because they're doing family history research, and that's where we get a lot of them. So,
Nice.
last chance for a tap dance. No,
You
I
first.
didn't touch you. Sorry.
Thanks, Amanda.
Thank you.
High Plains Mental Health. And we'll get them to tap dance. Great.
I'm definitely not tap dancing. Good morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
Morning.
Craig Poe with High Plains Mental Health Center. I've got Kaylee Connor and James Gershner with me as well. You've got a request in front of you, and I know there is an interest in trying to keep things level. We do have quite an increase in funding, but I want to give some context to that and understanding of what we're doing here at High Plains. I've been with the center for a year and a half now, and really been able to dig into a project that is going to make a significant difference in the lives of our surrounding communities. We have already broke ground and are in the middle of renovation on the 3rd floor of the east wing of the Hadley building. It is not a fully funded project yet, but we are actively seeking fundraising and not asking the county for fundraising for that construction. But we are doing a little over a $5 million project to open a 22-bed facility that will serve individuals in mental health crisis and sobering needs. This facility is the only type that will be in any of the western half of the state. And the intent behind it is, even just last month, we had 2 individuals right here in Hayes that were screened for mental health crisis and our staff are the appropriate authority for the state of Kansas for this area. They're screened to see if they meet the terms of being involuntarily committed to a state hospital. And they did meet that criteria, and so they were qualified to go on to the state hospital, but as often happens, there aren't enough beds at Larned State Hospital. These two individuals waited over 2 weeks in mental health crisis without anywhere to go, which means they're sitting in a hospital bed with 24-hour observation from law enforcement and not getting the psychiatric and therapeutic treatment that they need. This facility would offer an alternative. When Larned has a wait list, they could come directly to us. It's not designed to replace the state hospital. Our license would be for a 72-hour window, similar to our current crisis stabilization unit. But we would be able to take on involuntary care, which we've never done before. And this would absolutely change people's lives. We have individuals that sit for 2 weeks. I don't know about you, but if I was in a mental health crisis, I don't think sitting and waiting and hoping for the best is going to get me much better. And a facility like this will change that narrative. We've seen it in practice in the state. Lawrence has had a facility open under a temporary license for a little over a year, and 98% of the individuals that go to that facility do not go on to a state hospital because they get better and they no longer meet the criteria to go involuntarily to a state hospital. We don't know if our results will be exactly the same, but there is expectation that we would be able to get people better and get them right back into the community without going on to state hospitalization. For the small percentage of people that belong at a state hospital or have committed a crime or are incarcerated, they're still going to have that same path that they follow. But the individuals that are suffering in mental health crisis in the western part of Kansas are going to have an alternative source. And that's the reason for our increase. We do have the two numbers separated out to make some context for you as well. We do have an interlocal agreement with all 20 counties, and that's based on 6 factors that determine the funding based on the previous year of services that we provided. And that total came to $305,993.57. And then the additional amount we asked for was us trying to gauge how many people from Ellis County will benefit from the new Crisis Intervention Center. And as you look through the packet, just into it, there is a number of screens, and I'll give you time to look through it yourselves, but it just shows that 224 individuals in Ellis County in 2024 were screened for mental health crisis. So just like the 2 individuals I talked about from last month, there were 224 individuals in a similar situation in Ellis County last year. And our funding request would represent help for those 224 people that would likely receive services within our Crisis Intervention Center. We know that increases in funding is something that is not taken lightly, but we know that the center that we're providing will significantly change what we're able to provide here in Hays and help us become more of a regional hub for what we do. I included our executive summary of the funding, not for an ask for the county within our construction project, but for context to understand what it was. And if you flip into that packet, it's a 15-page packet, but I'm just asking you to go to page 5 of the 8 pages, or not 15, 8, sorry. And it talks about the economic impact. I oftentimes am very focused on the impact that we can make for the lives of those that are in need, but opening a center like this has an enormous economic impact on the Hays area. We would add an additional 50 direct jobs, and calculating the threshold for what healthcare jobs do to an economy, that's an increase of 86 jobs in the Hays area, and millions of dollars back into the economic impact for here in the Hays and the Ellis County area. We expect to hire these individuals, not just drawing them from the outside, but also retaining some of our graduates within the Hays community with Fort Hays. The lowest level of position that we offer is going to be a $19 an hour job that comes with state benefits and a great PTO plan, and the individuals will have a full-time employment with just the age requirement of 21 for the licensing, and all the training would be provided by us. So it's a really low bar for entry and able to really add some economic jobs to Hayes that we didn't have before. So with that, I will stand for any questions you have. I know we've discussed the matter several times, but wanted to make sure you still had a reminder of where we're at, and I absolutely appreciate all of your support that you've provided in the time that I've been here.
So, kind of a funding question. Right now, the funding's gonna be split up, very similar fashion the way High Plains has been funded currently.
Correct.
You know, dollars per county that houses and, you know, spread evenly throughout. Have you looked at different ways of funding this in the future? Because we may start pulling and drawing from southwest Kansas, and is there gonna be a different funding pool that develops out of this?
We are actively pursuing different concepts. We don't know where some of them will go. But other community mental health centers, Kansas has 26, and we are working on agreements with those other community mental health centers to figure out if there's some kind of funding source or even funneling through KDADs through those community mental health centers to come back into our center for running the center. Because they will, outside areas will be able to bring them in just like they can today. Our community mental health center serves people from anywhere in Kansas, but we are geographically located where people are likely to go to their closest center.
Okay.
Do you see some of the people coming from, say, Larned that will enter into our, facility? Do you see some of that coming on or not?
Individuals coming out of Larned
Yes.
and going back to our facility?
And coming, yes. I mean, as they're being full, to make room for more and to provide that service here for them.
Oh, so we won't replace the state hospital. So we're not an overflow for the state hospital. It's kind of the other side of it, where
Okay.
when the state hospital doesn't have room, we would house those clients. And we're going to have an impact on their wait list, and sometimes it's up to 16, 18, 20 people. We have 22 beds. I don't think we'll have their entire wait list
Right.
sitting in our building, but significantly changing what the wait list looks like by having this facility open.
Okay, and then with you adding, 86 additional jobs, are the people out there, are the,
I think so, and that's why I described the highest percentage of staff that we're hiring are going to meet a behavioral health technician classification. And the only real requirement is by state license, they have to be 21 to work in a facility like this. And all the rest of it could be training that we provide. And so anybody that's looking for just a career change, or even new college graduates that aren't sure where they want to go, or we do happen to have 3 colleges that relate to behavioral health within Fort Hays, and be able to bring those people and retain them here in the community is something that we feel we can do with the wages that we're offering.
Specifically on the CIC allocation, the 200,000, then that's, so, I'm seeing that right, you use the same formula to split that 200,000 out between the counties?
We actually made it a whole lot simpler. So the 20-county interlocal agreement that provides what the funding is from each one of those 20 counties has 6 different factors involved, from population to clients served to the wages that are even paid back into the county. There's a lot of factors with that.
Okay,
This, we simply broke down how many screens there were in 2024 for adults in mental health
Okay.
crisis, and took a percentage of the operating budget. We expect the annual operating budget to be about $5 million, and placed all the counties at 4% of that operating budget, which is where the 200,000 came from.
okay,
And then we just took, I think Ellis County is around 36% of the total screens, and that's where the number came from, is about 36% of the 200,000.
okay. So that leads into my follow-up, which I kind of know. So this would be essentially an ongoing request to the county, though, for operation cost of CIC specifically?
It
Of that
would,
budget.
yeah, because we would greatly increase the number of services we're able to provide to Ellis County residents, to the tune of that. Those 224 people are likely going straight to Larned if there's no wait list, or sitting in a hospital bed under 24-hour law enforcement observation and an impact on our medical facilities they're already being served in some way in Ellis County. We're just providing that service instead.
Okay. And this is more out of curiosity, but have you presented to the other counties, and any feedback from those counties as far as their funding on this specifically?
Yeah, because it's early and we're asking for funding for 2026, I don't have any confirmed funding,
Okay.
but they have all received the additional request as well, and it's been received very well in the outside counties.
Okay.
A lot of them are also providing transportation, which is less of a drive from Ellis County to Larned, and a lot more staff involved with law enforcement here to be able to do that. But if there's a facility that the individual can be brought to here, then we would be responsible for finding that transportation to go down to Larned, as long as we are capable of doing so. A lot of the Rollins County or Cheyenne County is quite a drive to bring somebody to Larned, and even if they were to travel to Hayes, it would be a shorter trip. And we're trying to identify ways to provide that transportation within this concept as well. So it's been very well received by them. I just don't know for sure that they will provide the same funding request, but the expectation is that they would.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, brother.
Thank you.
Thank you all very much for your time.
All right, thank you.
Ellis County Conservation District.
Good morning. I'm Mary
Morning.
Pfeiffer, chairperson for the Ellis County Conservation District. Linda O'Neill is our district manager. Mackenzie Kane was hired last year as the DOC summer intern and is now a full-time district technician. Nicholas Kane was hired last year as a Division of Conservation archaeologist. And also have Alan Roth, who is a district supervisor, and also with us is Dustin Criley from the Stockton office. Dustin is the acting NRCS district conservationist for Ellis County. And we're here today to ask that our request for Ellis County funds be granted. The Conservation District provides information and resources for the residents of Ellis County, and one of those resources is cost share programs. The funding for our cost share programs comes from Ellis County, the Conservation District itself, and the Kansas Department of Agriculture, Kansas Division of Conservation, through appropriation from the State Water Plan Fund. These programs help landowners to establish conservation practices that improve and protect Kansas's water resources. In fiscal year 2025, our district utilized extra statewide cost share funds to help with Ellis County conservation projects. And those projects brought an extra $205,000 in our county. That is in addition to the original $53,000 allocated to our office. Our goal is to develop and implement programs to protect and conserve the natural resources in Ellis County. And part of the Ellis County allocation helps with operations, and at this time we have 2 full-time employees, and the funds help with salary and benefits for those employees. These funds also help maintain our local office, purchase supplies and equipment, provide liaison between landowners and federal, state, and local programs, keep landowners advised of conservation programs and solutions, and provide technical assistance. This technical assistance has become more important due to government downsizing. The Conservation District budget request this year includes the Ellis County Cost Share Program for $10,750, which helps fund conservation practices. The Ellis County Cost Share Program has been a long-standing program funded by the Ellis County Commissioners. We are also asking the Commission for the $61,896 in allocation for operations, which is the same amount funded last year. Our total budget request for operations and the Ellis County Cost Share Program is $72,646. As of today, we have 24 cost share applications equaling $170,740 for 2026 cost share funds. The majority of these applications are for rebuilt terraces, range plantings, and water wells. And I'm going to turn it over to Dustin for a minute.
Morning. As
Morning.
Mary mentioned, Dustin Crowley, I'm the acting district conservationist on behalf of the Natural Resources Conservation Service for Ellis County. Just want to speak on our support for the Ellis County Conservation District. Without the County Conservation District, NRCS does not exist within the county. We have to have a conservation district as a partner to exist within the county. Typically, each fiscal year, through our Environmental Quality Incentives Program and our Conservation Stewardship Program, we have federal tax dollars that are being brought into the county. I believe we ran the numbers, and I think each one of those programs was just shy of $1 million for fiscal year 25 planned to be paid. Again, a lot of these contracts are EQIP contracts can be up to 10 years. CSP contracts are 5 years. Also, Conservation District has funds they can bring in through state cost share that is matched based on how much you guys provide them. And terrace rebuild programs, so our federal program, EQIP, we cannot do terrace rebuilds. We have to completely wipe out a terrace system and start from scratch. Sometimes that's not really a need. Sometimes we have a functioning system, it's just the terraces are worn down and need a little maintenance to them, and a lot of farmers, they need that extra assistance due to financial situations to help complete that and address the resource concern out there. Conservation District, we can do that through their programs. And then also livestock water infrastructure, right now our federal programs, we have some funding for that, but it's limited. And our primary resource concern in those situations is the grass condition, whereas through the Conservation District, we can strictly address livestock water and not having enough water for those animals and to properly distribute that grazing to address those resource concerns out there. So just want to let you know, NRCS does support Conservation District, and without them representing here in the county, we can't bring in our federal tax dollars as well to assist landowners in the county. Thank you.
Not all applications qualify for federal funding, which is why the county, district, and state programs are so important. Thank you for the opportunity to present our budget requests. Are there any questions?
Yeah, I've got a few questions for some of the people who may be listening or hearing. How are the funds allocated? Does it go through a board process to approve projects?
That's a really good question, Nathan. What we do is when we have an application, it comes in and we take a look at it and we discuss it with NRCS and we decide where is it going to go through to be funded. And then we rank, if it is going to be a state, county, or district-funded project, then we go through and we rank it. So all of the applications are ranked, and then we start going in order that we can start allocating funds to the highest ranked, and then we go down through that list. And when the money is out, the money is out. We can't fund anymore.
Okay. Is there any considerations for maybe overlying projects that may come in, such as a solar or a wind operation that could tear up recently funded projects? Or is there any consideration taken for monitoring situations such as that?
I think, do you guys do that?
I guess my thoughts are that would be something the board could put in their ranking scenarios, their ranking questions. Is there any potential for, is the participant interested in any solar developments or any energy developments that may contribute to this project not being completed, or at a later date after it's completed being destroyed or taken? There are stipulations usually in NRCS contracts as well as district contracts about maintenance and operations that you are going to maintain that practice for the lifespan of the practice. And if not, you need to discuss with the county or NRCS any plans that change that and whether any allocations need to come back.
Okay, very
I
good.
haven't been asked that before, so thank you.
Yeah.
I might address that. Recently in our area, Alan Roth with Conservation District, but recently in our area, we had a big project going through, which ended up not being funded, but we dealt with installing solar panels. And I had a lengthy discussion with their landman a number of times, and one of my main questions was, what about conservation? How's all this going to boil out, and how is it going? They're going to work with that. Their answer to that was they hadn't thought of it, first of all. The second was that they would abide by any restrictions that the Conservation District would have and put on them. And if they would come in and destroy or modify any conservation practices that were in place, they would replace them when they're done. And I said, well, that's not, to me, that's not acceptable. You put panels up, you're gonna have water drainage, you're gonna have erosion. They said they would address those issues through the Conservation District as they'd come about. So they were, I made, with my conversation, I don't know, they hadn't addressed it yet in Ellis County, but they were kind of aware that they have hoops to go through with conservation.
Okay, so there are policies in place with your board to address those issues?
We haven't addressed it, but the solar company said that they would come to the Conservation District to address the issues if they came about. So,
Okay.
but it didn't happen, so, but we will discuss it at one of our board meetings.
Very good. Thank you.
I just have one question, and it's probably going to make sense, and it makes sense to me, but I just have the question to ask. I've been checked 2 years now in a row. Why do they come from other counties to come into Ellis County to like spot check for new waterways, existing waterways?
Part of that is because the people from other counties have not worked on that project, so they are looking from an objective view.
Okay.
They haven't been involved, they don't know anything about it, and so they are just strictly looking at, does this meet our requirements? So that's why they have others from other counties come
Okay.
in. And it's usually within our own unit, which is our management unit. We are managed, Trigo County, Ellis County, and Russell County are managed together. And so our techs would go out and look at Trigo or Russell, and their techs would come and look at Ellis County. That way, there's nothing biased about it.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
You bet.
Appreciate you coming in, everybody
Yeah.
coming in and speaking to us.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Next item, I'll just ask one more time if anybody specifically, yes?
I apologize, did I miss the announcement for the public forum?
Yes.
I think he may have stepped in.
Are you speaking on Wiles Road or something else?
Something else.
Yes. Okay. If you want to speak to as a public, that's fine.
Apologies for missing that. I just wanted to introduce myself this morning. Good morning to you all. I'm Greg
Morning.
Stiles. I'm with Scottwood Industries. We provide road stabilization and dust control services for many counties across the state. We do county work, haul routes, detours, grain elevators, really anywhere there's gravel surfaces. We provide road stabilization and dust control. The reason I stopped in today is we recently brought in storage as well as a carrier on the western side of the state where most of our work is completed, say east of Salina. And now we have a local presence out here. So I just wanted to drop off some contact information. If anybody ever has any questions or has any roads or anywhere that dust seems to be a problem or the gravel roads have a tough time maintaining, then I would be more than happy to visit with Brendan or any of you, anybody that has any questions or anything I can be assistance on. And again, my apologies for sliding in here just late.
You're right.
Thank you very much.
No problem.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yep.
I know it's a few people in, but I still don't recognize anybody that's here specifically on Wiles Road. So again, amendment to the item specifically, we're going to have Brendan still come up and talk to us, but we're going to amend it to just talking about private roads within the county in general, in kind of a further discussion of our subdivision discussion. And a little bit, I'm going to just tack onto that a little bit of alleyway maintenance within the county as well. So that's kind of the amendment to the topic item. It is not specific to this road, but in private roads in general. I know you kind of
Yeah.
have some specifics.
Well, I guess Brendan, we've discussed, this is not our first time discussing a a private road that we kind of publicly maintain a little bit or have proven some maintenance on. I guess from my standpoint, I'd like to ask you to hold off on making any major changes coming, because we know we have a number of other roads under this. I would ask that we maybe hold off on making any just major drastic changes of stopping what we're currently doing today. And then allow us some time to get more information and revisit this issue when we revisit the subdivision topic here. And I guess it'd probably be, what, 45 days now since we set that timeline with our subdivision topic.
Brendan McKay, Ellis County Public Works Director. So I'm understanding correctly, you'd like us to return to maintenance on this roadway or follow?
No,
the
I think we've
counselor's
kind of
direction?
addressed this one, and
Okay.
we've dealt with this specific road.
But the other ones in
But
question?
the other ones that are in question, I think before we upset the apple cart
Yeah,
too much, allow us to get our feet underneath of us and get some things figured out.
no, understood.
Were you bringing a topic next week on this a little bit anyway?
Yes, the private roads and
Yeah, okay.
right-of-way, areas where we have issues with right-of-way, where the county has right-of-way, but no public road has been opened, where
I'm not gonna have
there is roads that
Yeah,
are,
yeah.
there's no public right-of-way written or recorded, but we do maintain. And where there's roads where there is right-of-way, we do maintain it, but it serves more as a driveway. Like the mailbox is half mile down the road at the connector road, but we maintain all the way to the home or residence or oil well. But there is public right-of-way there, but it may not serve best interest of the public because it's just a single access point.
Well, my
And that'll be
apologies
coming next
then.
week. Yes.
And so my apologies for getting ahead of you then. So-
No, to get that on the agenda, that was brought in, and Darren advised we do it next week with the other roads and alleys that we have that have come into question here.
Yeah. Can you speak to alleys a little bit at this point?
Yeah, so at
'Cause I
alleys,
know that's-
current, the county does not maintain, improve, or build alleys or unbuilt roads in platted developments. So if the road was never built, we will not build it. We'll just maintain what already exists there. And then alleys, a lot of those times are just for utility easement. People do drive down them and now have access off them, but the intent and purpose in most of those alleys in these platted developments is just for utilities to be run through, not for ingress, egress of properties. That's
we-
why they're not
With an
maintained.
alley, speaking to an alley, if there's a utility function down that alley, we'll say in our county developments, if it's tore up, do we go down and repair those damaged areas?
No, that should be on the utility provider. If they tore up a roadway to
Okay.
install their utilities, they need to rebuild it or they will get charged to make it whole. Generally, they're not gonna go down a dirt path when it's underwater or muddy,
Okay.
at least in my experience, my 4 years here. We've not sent crews to clean up down alleys. We've sent them to clean up on platted roadways and open roadways, and then we bill them for that. That's part of what their insurance is for working within the right of way.
Okay.
Do you have any idea, miles-wise, how many we have? Something that maybe you could look for us at some point? I mean, it's not happening overnight, so.
No, so, and the map that will be brought up next week, that is just the 10,000-foot overview. That does not include the miles of the platted developments, platted subdivisions. If the commissioner recalls last fall when I brought forward all the developments that are in Ellis County, I had listed in there miles of roadway that were publicly maintained and then miles of roadway that were not built or were privately maintained. That's a large portion of the roadways. I know Eugene's spoken to the commissioners in the past on that, about those in the platted areas where they were not built at all, but they're still existing as open right-of-way. They're just fields at this point. I couldn't give you an accurate number, truthfully. When you see the map next week, you'll see that there's 3 different things in that map. There's technically 4. There's one there where it's just an error on the map that I've noticed, where there is no maintenance and no actual roadway, but just an artifact from an old map that I'm working off of, or an issue when the GIS was imported. But those 3 main items on there are right-of-ways that were platted by statute or done as a plat, but never built never opened and no maintenance on. Then the second item is roads that, and paths that the county maintains, but we have not been able to find an official public opening on. There's nothing in the right-of-way files. It's like this area of Wiles Road. It's something that we've been tasked with doing and maintaining, and the county has infrequently or at times. And the fourth one is roads that there is right-of-way for. In most cases, it's shown in the parcel maps, not always in our record booklet, but it does not serve as like the traveling public. It just goes to a residence and the mailbox is out at the main county roadway. So this is a driveway at this point. Or it goes to an oil well, or it just goes off into a pasture. There's right-of-way shown in the parcel map. There may be right-of-way in our road record booklets, but those are the three main items. And there's quite a few on there. And like I said, this is a 10,000-foot overview, and I'm not advocating that we immediately stop maintenance on everything. I think each one needs to be looked at individually to see if we need to acquire right-of-way and make that a public roadway because it is in the best interest of the traveling public, or if it's something we need to vacate and remove. But some of those roadways that were never built, there are parcels that become landlocked if we vacate that roadway. So there isn't a road there currently, but we can't get rid of it. But also, we're not, at this point in time, building a road out there. If that answers the three of your questions.
Yep. For now, yeah, and it'll be a further discussion next week again. We've had, again, this kind of brought up because we've had calls in the last couple of weeks about these sorts of issues, and they keep kind of cropping up as far as these private and what we are tasked to maintain, what we should maintain, what we will maintain. So we'll have further discussion. Victoria Road improvement.
And again, and I've got John here as well, I guess. 2 weeks ago, John came before the county commissioners with myself to discuss the potential financial impact of improving and repairing the approaches to East and West Main Street off of Old 40 Highway. I believe Darren has had conversations with John about this, and the city is moving forward with requesting funding for the East Main Street rehabilitation and reconstruction. Just the approach part. So that's a portion the county would assist with payment on. The city would pay for the remaining portion that we're going to replace.
Well, we discussed it 2 weeks ago, and you've altered it from asking for both to just the east for this time?
Yes, we always wanted the east one was the priority. The west one would be, I mean, it's needed, but the east one is where 90% of the trucks leaving the co-op go out. And that is really the chief cause of the deterioration of the asphalt is the trucks leaving the co-op.
Okay. And I'm sorry, John, we'll bring Brendan back up. We are good. We're going to have some savings through our Catherine Road project.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay.
Was this I know you sent us a letter, it's not in it, I think you sent it last time we kind of looked at this, but was this also, I guess, addressed at the Victoria Council and voted on there, or?
Yes, the city council is committed to doing this either on our own or with the county's assistance.
Okay.
Will this be done in the next 10 days?
Next 10 days, no. We've talked to the contractor, and the contractor has decided to wait until after wheat harvest to start.
Okay.
I guess I have a problem with it. I mean, I don't mind helping. We're getting ready to build a new road from, out on Vineyard, 270th, Commerce Parkway, whatever you want to call. I know I had asked the question to put approaches past the road so when people turn off of it, it don't, ruin the road right away and get it off of our right of way, and then put crushed concrete or rock. I was pretty much said, no, that's not in the bid. Now we're going to turn around and do that, and there's only, what, 1, 2, possibly 3 or 4 approaches on there just to help save our new road. So, you know, I could probably go with a quarter of it, of doing it. It's my opinion on it, but there's a lot of approaches that are gonna be asked, you know, so.
I guess I don't quite understand your.
As far as off of the new road off of 270th, there's
Well,
the,
That I understand where it correlates with Highway 40, where we're pushing out and buckling our highway there and going onto the main street, I guess.
so I'm just saying, like, the Gutchock addition, if we should take those and get them past our right-of-way, then put the crushed concrete and/or rock up against them instead of having just a blunt edge, which we know is gonna have a lot of traffic, it's probably going
So we
to.
will be building up.
I understand that. but-
We won't do it to the private entrances, but like this case, this is a roadway. The roadways will be meeting at grade, so we will be adding material on the roadways to approach it. We will put in earth and material, and the top coating is responsibility of the property owner, because that is going off to private property. If they wanted concrete, if they wanted crushed rock, if they would like asphalt, that's on, that top coat is the responsibility of the property owner. But going off to the Gutchock addition, the county will bear the cost and is planning on making those roads match up with the new existing, the pavement. Because we would not leave a 4-inch wedge from one way to the other way. It wouldn't be safe for the traveling public. So there will be an edge there. It's not part of this cost of this project from the bid we received from them. It'll be done with county forces and county materials to match up the additions that are adjoining the new improved roadway. Just the private driveways that are off of there, there will not be, we're not gonna put asphalt down on those because that's responsibility of the property owner. But where 270th comes in, where the park comes in, and 270th and 260th comes through, those approaches will be not asphalt, but we'll put in crushed rock or sand and earth and materials to make the grades a smooth transition from one roadway to the other roadway.
I understand, but how far out does our right-of-way go? 66 total feet? of
Depends
the-
on where you're looking at on there. Some of
Right.
it is 60 feet, some of it is 53 feet, some of it is 100 feet, because the city has 100 feet there at the intersection of 260th and Vineyard.
Well, I'm just seeing if we're doing it on one, then we're gonna be doing it on a lot of other.
I mean, I guess I can understand that. I know that area there, we're seeing a lot of problems over on the Highway 40 there in Victoria. So it's either entrance front off of Main Street onto Highway 40 or Highway 40 onto Main Street in Victoria. And that's a main dispatch point for our fire department as well, that intersection.
Yeah, and.
I do understand the concerns.
And I know, I talked with John, you know, and, that the city hasn't set a slush fund for that. You know,
Mhm.
I've been going over that way for, like I told my wife, 48 years, and the west one hasn't had a lot of, it's been patched together, so, but, the east one, I understand, gets a lot of traffic. I see that during harvest, and, that's,
This came about of, this was just, John, this was kind of more spur of the moment here a couple of weeks ago. This was, you got a grant or, there was a change of focus.
What happened is we were building a new street in Victoria called 13th Street. It's up in the Knights Addition, the northern part of the town. The company that is building that street, we just kind of asked them spur of the moment, hey, what would it cost to do these approaches, meaning both east and west? We got the bid, and there was a misunderstanding with the first bid, and so then we got an updated one, which is what you have in your packets. And so that's when we kind of shifted focus to doing just the east one,
Okay,
as long as, once we got the bids clarified.
okay.
And, you know, maybe this is something that we should look at for the future, to start putting some funding away to help assistance in the other communities or villages around, and, that's just my opinion on it.
Yeah, I guess I'm kind of in that same line. I don't know, kind of torn. It's a relatively small amount. I think it would do fine, but I'm also torn between it just kind of dropped in our lap for approval, and that just, I don't know. I'm more of a, let's try to budget projects and get them done when they're budgeted, not out of convenience at the time that it comes up. So I guess that's just kind of where my tear is, I guess. So.
Yeah, and is it something that, you know, when you guys do, if it happens, do the west one, that, you know, we could at least get a fair warning?
Yes.
Like say, it's not a lot of money, but it's going to open up.
I mean, this would come up, and this, like I said, I've watched it, well, and Neil, you've been on the road too as well, that
Mhm.
our highway right there where we have all that. I guess, let me ask this to Brendan. Brendan, what's our perspective on, I mean, we've replaced panels, we've done a number of different things. What's our overall project looking like on the highway in that span? Are we got any major portion, anything major coming up that you
Not
can
in that
see?
area necessarily,
Other than
just the
panels
routine
where-
patching panels.
Okay. Because, I mean, I know we just did Cathedral through there, you know, last year and the year prior. I was just curious on
So-
the actual highway.
There's been two projects, major projects on Old 40 Highway in the past prior to me coming in my position here. That is from Hayes west to Ellis, and then from Hayes to Victoria, where the one was total reconstruction, the other one was a mill, geosynthetic fiber put in, and then an overlay put over the top of it. That's why you can see the differences, the panels. From Hayes to Victoria, you see those panels as they shift. Nothing has been done in that scope, in that size of scope, from Victoria east to the county line. In our capital plan, we do have in there improvements to the shoulders years down the line from now. But a lot of it's just routine patching of those panels. If the commission would like, we can put in the budget to do a total reconstruction of that 7 miles of highway. At this point in time, it's serving the community. It's,
Right.
no road will ever be perfectly dead, flat, and smooth over the course of its life.
I guess I was just concerned about kind of the general vicinity of in the town of Victoria where the high amount of truck traffic comes in and out.
Nothing at this point in time.
Okay. Okay. I mean, that
Just
would,
addressing the panels as if and when they break or move.
got it.
And I see where you're going. That would be the time to,
Well, you don't want
Reconstruct
to do
and-
one and then come back and
Right.
redo it or try and meet back up to
Yep.
it. So that's what I was concerned. I mean, I know I was over there last year and there's some major panel issues that we've had to fix, but I also know that some of that turning off that approach is what
Mhm.
constitutes it. I mean, I'll be honest, I'm part of it.
Mhm.
Taking the mini loads in and out.
to get there faster that way.
Well, it's just part of it.
It
It's where
is. It is what it is right. Everybody does
You
it.
know, that's the commerce of our,
Mm-hmm.
that's what makes up our rural county. So, I mean, I have no problems going forward with it or a portion of it. You know, we're gonna have our cost savings, it sounds like, from some of our cathedral, and that doesn't mean we need to utilize all of our savings either.
Mm-hmm.
And to speak to that, we budgeted $600,000 for Catherine Road improvements. I'll be coming back here after Justin's presentation on TARP loads to request $75,000, as well as we purchased a few things. We're looking at under $150,000 in total expenses for that project. So there's $450,000 that was assigned to that project in capital that we do not need to spend on this project.
some of that capital is needed for bridges that may not get federally funded either.
Correct. Or bridges that have been added back in.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
that's why I said I don't wanna spend all of our savings from projects, but. So,
There's a motion on the table, or do we?
I'll go ahead and move to approve the PO 7925 to the Volks Power for the reconstruction of the East Main Street approach to Old Highway 40, and I'll let it on the table as that.
I'll second it. So we got a motion and a second on the table. Any further discussion on it? I'll call for a vote then. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no.
No.
Okay.
Motion fails, 1-2.
Okay.
Thank you for your time.
Mhm.
Thank you. Planning Commission appointments, reappointing 2 current members for new 3-year terms on Joint Planning Commission. Justin.
Good morning, Commissioners. Justin
Morning.
Gregg, Environmental
Morning.
Services Director. Before you this morning, the Planning and Zoning Commission has two members whose terms end this on June 30th of this year. So we're requesting that they be reappointed for new 3-year terms. It would be David McDaniel and Mason Ritter. I've spoken with them, and they are willing to renew for new 3-year terms.
No problem with either of the gentlemen. I'll move to approve the commission to reappoint David McDaniel and Mason Reuter to 2 3-year terms on the Joint Planning Commission effective July 1st, 2025.
I'll second that.
Okay, motion and a second on the table. Any discussion on the appointments? All
I have
those in
none.
favor say aye.
Aye.
No opposed, passes 3-0.
Thank you.
You can give Dave the good news. Keep him busy.
Secured load policy.
All right, once again, Justin Craig, Environmental Services Director. Before you this morning is a resolution to establish a secured loads policy at the Ellis County landfill. It's kind of the culmination of about a year's worth of discussions we've had over this topic. I'd like to reiterate that the purpose of this policy would not be to increase revenue at the landfill. It would just be to help with the cleanliness of the roads leading to the landfill and also in the city of Hayes. With this resolution, it basically just would define a secured load as it must be securely covered, tarped, tied, bound, roped, or utilize any other covering which will prevent the material from spilling, becoming loose, or detached in any manner. So what this policy would do is should someone come to the landfill with an unsecured load that we deem unsecured or a danger to the roadway, we would enact it at a 50% fee on top of what their average load or what their tear weight would have been for that dumping fee. For 2024, if adjusted to our 2025 rates, the average municipal waste load was about $35. So should it be unsecured, it would bump it up to about $53. Now, with that average, it's kind of skewed. It takes into account the city of Hayes or all the other trash producers that bring, 4 or 5 tons at a time versus, just your average citizen maybe bringing out a mattress out there that would be at $10 versus a $15. It should the policy be enforced. Along with that also, we've been in contact with the city of Hayes. We'd like the trees that city of Hayes residents bring to the landfill, they can bring them for free, but with this policy, should they be unsecured, it would be that the free would not apply. It would basically be the regular rates of what you would normally pay for the trees plus the 50% to cover that. So, with that, I'll stand for any questions you may have.
This policy reflects similar policies around the area, surrounding areas.
Yes, most of the landfills have been in contact with Saline, Finney County, Ford County, Barton County. They have fees similar to this. And with that, we're not necessarily wanting this to enact today. The idea would be to have an educational period throughout the rest of this year for the first 3 months of 2026 to have some discretion to go through those if we choose to educate them versus if it's someone that's presenting a danger or we witness them losing materials on the roadways to possibly enforce it then and then to go full enforcement on April 1st. Still have some discretion if you would choose to, want to educate someone if it's just a minor thing, or maybe they just didn't know and it's not a disregard for the safety and cleanliness of Ellis County. Along with that, we're planning to purchase a camera that we can look down from the scale house. The attendant can look down on the load while it's on the scale to try and determine in her best judgment if it's deemed secured or not. We're wanting to place some signs along 55th Street on both sides of our entrance to basically educate the public, say as of, I don't have the exact wording, but maybe as of January 1st, 2026, this is the policy that's in effect. And then we'll also be wanting to place the sign, we'll have to find a good placement for it in front of the scale somewhere to ask that all vehicles go over the scale instead of just bypassing the scale as the trees do now.
Okay. Will you be taking, with that camera, will it take like a screenshot or a picture in case there's a dispute, or will the individual be notified at the time they pull on?
Yeah, the idea with the scale house clerk would notify them at the time they pull on that they're doing that. It doesn't, I don't know if there's a way for Milestone to take a picture. There may possibly be, but they're safe. And I believe for 45 days the video would be, so if there was a disagreement or discrepancy, we should be able to go back and look within that time frame.
Okay.
And see that they are.
Okay.
Then as far as educating everybody, you've talked with the city, correct? And they'll help us
Yes.
advertise a little bit on that to get everybody up on speed on it? Okay.
And I'll be working with Krista and I believe it was James to,
Okay.
I think we're working on some type of flyer or trifold that we can have printed out to hand out and use social media as much as we can. Just word of mouth, it'll get around, and hopefully it's bought into and it's something we never have to enforce. But as everyone has seen, the roadways leading out there, there's trees and trash and mattresses, and it's not safe to have to stop and pick them up, and it's an eyesore.
Okay. Toby, thank you.
Do you have any comments, Tony, that you want to address? I know the city kind of had to maybe change a little bit on their ordinance, or any additional thoughts?
Toby Doherty, City Manager. Thank you for allowing me to come up. I'm not sure if this is going to take any ordinance change on our part. We appreciate the action the commission is considering here. We deal with the limbs and the trash and the mattresses and things as well. And people don't know when a city road stops and a county road starts. They just know there's trash. And so I think this is a pretty good way that puts it on puts the burden on the person bringing the waste out or the limbs out. If they want to take the responsibility, they can avoid the cost. So we're fully supportive of it.
Okay.
And yes, we will have James, our PR manager, work with Justin and everybody else in making sure that the public notice is sent out.
I was at the Larks game, and I had two people from the county approach me. You're never sure what they're going to do, and they both said they were looking forward to this being adopted as a resolution because they live in the county and they see stuff flying off vehicles. I feel like there's some support from the public as well on this.
Okay, I'll move to,
I was
You
gonna
have
ask,
it.
I was
Okay.
gonna ask Bill a question on this. This is a new resolution of 2025-10 that's being asked. We have previous resolutions that have been mentioned in the past referring to TARP loads or secured load policies. Will this supersede those? Do we need to revoke those? Do we need to amend those? Do we need to change anything along those lines?
Bill Jeter, County Councilor. Well, anywhere it differs from prior resolution, it would supersede those resolutions.
Okay.
I think at some point, and we've had this discussion recently, we have a lot of resolutions which probably need to be revoked.
Okay.
But it would take a lot of footwork to go through them and sort all those out. But any prior resolutions in this subject matter area that differ from this resolution would be revoked as to that part of it anyway.
Okay. Okay, so we don't actually have to revoke that resolution,
No.
any prior thing at this point?
No.
Okay. Thank you for clarification on that.
so if somebody would come up to Justin with the old resolution, what happens then?
Well,
Just-
Justin needs to provide them a
Okay.
copy of the new resolution.
Okay, all right. Because I've got the old one, so,
Yeah.
okay.
Which the old one was
Yeah.
fairly steep
I think, yeah,
policy.
Mhm.
I think it was a $500 fine.
Right.
Yeah, it was
And
pretty
that was
steep.
1974.
Yeah.
Bring the old one up and pay more.
Right.
I want you to follow this one.
Yeah.
So,
I move to approve Resolution 2025-10 to implement the Ellis County Secured Loads Policy.
I will second that.
Got a motion and a second on the table. Any further discussion on secured loads?
And this would go into effect now. However, it would not, we wouldn't start any enforcement until April of '26.
April 1st, 2026 would be the final enforcement day. Like we said, we were wanting to educate from now until the end of the year, and then those first 3 months of the year, kind of enforce it if we see a danger or someone's just blatantly disregarding it over and over again, that
Okay.
we can track, and then April 1st, just put it into effect for everyone. That gives about 10 months to
Okay,
learn.
sounds good.
Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
No opposed, passes 3-0.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks, Justin.
Before we move on, guys, in regards to that Victoria right-of-way, I know you both voted no on it. Neil had mentioned he would think of maybe a quarter. Would we want to entertain that, or is that something that it's a definite no?
I mean, I want to work with everybody, but I feel we need to get something in our budget that when we run into this, that we've got it. That way it's a,
Okay.
and if not, they can come to us before. I know this was a, all of a sudden quick thing, but
Okay, no,
Yeah.
that's fine. I just thought I'd address it while it was still somewhat fresh.
They have a different, yeah, at this point, yeah, I'm
Okay,
good where I'm at.
okay.
Catherine Road reconstruction.
Morning again, Commissioners. Brendan McKay, Public Works Director, Ellis County. So before you request to purchase asphalt emulsion oil to complete the project of the Catherine Road reconstruction. During our Kansas County Highway Association Spring Conference, we had experts in that matter come take a look at it. And then during our scrub seal, we had Ergon engineer from Oklahoma come up and take a look at the road and see what they thought would be best treatment product on there. It differs from what we had previously budgeted. This is going to be a cost savings for the roadway using different materials. So to keep the POs accurate, we're requesting this issuance of this new PO, and we'll just cancel out the portion of this project that was on our prior PO.
So this is just an update to a previous PO already assigned?
Correct,
assigned.
yes.
Okay.
So they'll both be written out. We will just not take the funds that were set aside for this project on that prior PO. Because there's
Okay.
different object codes for different materials. We wanted to make sure we track it correctly, so that way, 10 years back from now, if we go look back, we don't have to try and remember which product we actually used to keep our line items accurate and appropriate.
Okay. I'll move to approve PO 7924 to Ergon Asphalt and Emulsions Incorporated.
Go ahead.
Second. Motion and second on the table. Any discussion on this topic? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
No
Thank-
opposed, passes 3-0.
Yeah, we'll be doing it later this summer, probably August timeframe. We've got the middle mile left. We have about 15 soft spots we've identified on it that we're going to be reworking. And then just to help make sure everything's good, we're gonna rework that entire section, the top 4 inches after we rework those soft patches to make sure we've got nice consistent crown and compaction across the whole surface. So it'll remain unpaved through this harvest, which what I would advise anyways, because just be a little bit of an asphalt treatment over the top of this that would potentially tear out with the heavy truck traffic and tractors that we'll expect to see on it. But it'll be done later this summer.
Okay.
Brendan, I do have one question. I got hit up quite a bit from some of the residents over in the Catherine area. and our people do a great job getting the publication out there, but there's quite a few other ones that say, hey, we didn't get anything, and then all of a sudden, I mean, is there anything else that we can do? I mean, I thought we were doing, do
So
we need to
out
put it on the
PSAs well in
radio?
advance. It was on the radio. We had message boards out weeks in advance.
Okay,
When it's impacting an area directly, so when we're sealing a roadway or overlaying a roadway, we'll make door knockers for those homes that are in that stretch of roadway. This is 3/4 mile, half mile adjacent to the work zone. So we didn't make door knockers for everyone in there because majority of the community there comes to Hayes for work. So they're taking the left out of Catherine and coming down through Hayes. So it'd be a waste, in my opinion, to make door knockers for all the residences in Catherine for a road that they may or may not be on. We can, if the commission would like us to do that in the future, but I feel we've done adequate through the social media, the radio, the message boards out on locations, the PSAs that are in the paper.
because I know I have several of them, you know, are we getting a dirt road? Is that something that we should mention in the PA right away?
No, I
don't.
mean, it was mentioned here at the commission meeting and
I know,
multiple times and in the PSA.
yeah.
Brendan, I would like to address that, follow up with Neil's comment on that. We've gotten the PSAs, you know, the subject to be completed between these states.
Yeah.
But we know that we're sealing a project and this project will not be completed, air quotes, until August, September timeframe. In the future, could we add that, so if we're doing a sealed project or something like that, a final completion to where
For
people can go?
rehabilitation?
Yes.
No, we can completely add that item in.
Okay.
We just like to keep the PSAs short and consistent, because we'll put a future PSA out when we go to seal it.
Right, but some of the questions
Yeah.
we're getting is like, well, is that what it is? No, read the whole thing, so maybe we could add something
So we can
along those
definitely add
lines.
that when if and when we do reconstruction in the future, that,
Something like that, yeah. Thank you.
yeah. Are there any further questions on
Nope,
it? Or?
I think that'll help. I mean, some of them will still miss it, but
Yeah.
we can say we tried.
We had a call in our office yesterday about 48th Street taking out someone's truck's front end, and why haven't we done anything yet? And I advised them that here in a month's time, the contractor's expected to be here to mill and overlay that. Because, well, I didn't know that. So, well, it's been on the books for a while now. But, so, I mean, some people will search for information, some people, you can beat them over the head with the information and it still won't take.
But you brought that up, is anything yet on when they're showing up?
First week of July is the
Okay,
tentative
Good.
timeline we have from them.
Good.
So as it gets closer, we know that they will be here, we'll put out PSAs.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
thanks, Brandon.
Funding request approval of the special alcohol funding.
Morning, Commissioners. Darren Myers, County Administrator. Next item for discussion is the funds that the county receives for the purchase of alcohol throughout the different drinking establishments in Ellis County. Per statute, the money that we do receive gets split up, and that is based on the county population size. So each county has different requirements of what they can do with those funds. Together, for the Ellis County, we collect about $23,000 that the state sends us each year. That is then split up in thirds. A third of it by statute goes to the revenue portion of the county general fund. A third of it goes to parks and recreations, which we do not maintain parks and recreation facilities in the county, and that has been traditionally approved from the commission to go to the Ellis County Historical Society. And then the final third of those funds are to be used for alcohol and drug rehabilitation units. And in the past, the Care Council of Ellis County has made the recommendation to the County Commission on what those funds should be used or dispersed out to. And traditionally, as long as I can remember, those funds have always been split for whatever we have budgeted from the state. 50% go to the Smoky Hill Foundation, and the other 50% goes to the Dream Incorporated. And that was their suggestion this year as well, with the attached letter that you see in the agenda, and we're just asking the commission's approval to make those disbursements out.
Okay. I'll move to approve the special alcohol funds to be made to, as listed above.
I'll second that.
My apologies.
So, Dream Inc., Smoky Hill Foundation. Okay. Got a motion and a second on the table. Any further discussion?
No, going to a good cause.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
No opposed, passes 3-0. Okay, going to hear from the Wage and Benefits Committee, COLA adjustment 401, a proposal.
Starting off here is there's kind of three different sections as part of this agenda item. The first is for the commission to consider a COLA adjustment for the Ellis County employees. This is the first year of the implementation of our compensation policy for the consideration of COLA adjustments. In policy, it states that we use a common source for what is determined of the COLA amount should be, which is the Social Security Administration, and that COLA adjustment that they have released for this year is 2.5%. And to make that effective throughout our policy or our compensation plan, as well as to the employees, budget adjustments throughout all the county departments that have salaries are needing to be adjusted. One of the things to consider this year, or that is different than previous years past, is we're making this adjustment for the first time per the new policy, but this is taking into consideration that usually we take money out of the budget stabilization account and then we kind of distribute that through 15 or so departments, 20 departments, like I say, all those that have salaries or contract employees, et cetera. This year, however, we didn't have a large increase in health insurance. And so a lot of these budget adjustments that you see, if the COLA adjustment is approved, we're actually reducing budgets and putting that money into the stabilization line item instead of taking out of, because we had budgeted 7% increase and we weren't even close to that increase as well. The other piece, as part of this, as we sit right now, actually it's down to, we had 14 employees currently, like I say, it's down 2, so I have 12 employees that we're waiting on. They're either brand new or they're open positions that we don't know what health insurance they're actually selecting. So at this time, last year, basically in July last year, we were putting these budgets together. And there's a lot of unknowns about what those employee benefits are going to be. And if you look at 14 employees on a swing of having health insurance or different levels of insurance that they have, that almost accounts to $280,000 just in their selection of benefits, plus the not having the 7%, which is about a $250,000 increase. That's why when you take all of that out and you make changes, you have retirements, we're actually reducing some of the budgets and putting it back into the budget stabilization line, which actually benefits the overall county budget, because that'll help with the unencumbered cash rollover at the end of the year. Going a little bit farther into that 2.5% does match the Social Security Administration. And one thing that this does fix is we do have several long-term employees with the county that are maxed out on their pay grades. We have several of our attorneys, our contractual attorneys that we have with the 23rd Judicial Court. And then we have other contractual employees like the fairgrounds, myself, that have contracts with the county. If there is no COLA pay administered changed, they don't get the step raise at the beginning of the year because they're maxed out. If they're on contract, they are not on a step system. So this could impact about 15 people in the county that would not actually get a raise at all if the COLA raises aren't approved. So I know there's several other reasons within the agenda item for COLA adjustment. This was taken to the Wage and Benefits Committee. I know they'll talk about the 401A employer match program here in a bit with you. But I will sit for any questions you may have in regards to the COLA.
I have none. We kind of made made arrangements last year to do this and to split it up to where it looked like, or to where the employees would get two different steps. A step at the beginning of the year and then a COLA in interim in the middle of the year.
And that is kind of designed with a purpose. The step raise is based, so you don't have, if you don't get step raises every year, you start having compression within your pay study, whereas you may have a longer-term employer not making more than a newer employer. And then the COLA adjustment adjusts the whole entire scale, so that kind of keeps us within the market. It doesn't do anything for the compression, but it does have lasting impacts of what the market is doing, inflation is doing, and what our pay scale is trying to help match that. So those adjustments for what the market and the economy is doing.
Okay.
In the motion, though, there's two items here, though. Does the motion also approve the 60 for the 401 match, or is that just making us aware at this time, or how?
So the motion would be for approval of the budget adjustments, which is the, I don't know, 5 pages that are attached to this. The pay scale, because if we approve a 2.5% COLA, the pay scale will need to be adjusted as well. And then resolution 2511, that due to the pay scale change, each elected official pay scale, or they're on the pay scale, so if we move the pay scale, the resolution has to be updated. And then that kind of, just for clarification, so there's no confusion, the COLA does impact the contractual employees, the medical directors, the fairgrounds, the attorneys. So there's a lot to it, but it does not impact the 401A. If that is something the commission wants to consider, as you hear from the Wage and Benefits Committee, that would be a separate motion that you would need to do.
So I'm gonna make kind of a tough comment here for me, because this has been weighing on me for a couple of weeks. I've had conversations with Darren's. There's all the reasons to approve this. It's within the budget. We've planned and budgeted for it. We have savings, of course. The compression issue, that's why we did the wage study and those kind of things. And this is where I'm not opposed to it per se, but I continue to have concerns about the overall economic outlook over. And so for me, right now, sitting here in June, I think for me to approve it now is I guess it's just become difficult. And I've kind of had this conversation with Darren. If this came to me here in August or September, when we're a little farther along in our budget, and we can, I think economically we're kind of in a perilous right now. It's really hard to judge, and inflation is kind of a lagging indicator. So right now we got 2.5% COLA adjustment here based on that inflation, but come August, September, that could all kind of change. And so I'm not here to twist your arms whether to prove it or not. That's just kind of my concerns right now, sitting here midway through the year, as far as how this impacts our budget. Again, for this year, it doesn't really impact because we've budgeted for it, but how does that impact us? It's a little bit, I guess, kind of going to the Victoria Road. Everywhere we can save some money right now feels like we kind of need to. And that's just kind of my general feelings. It's tough because I can see all the reasons to say, let's just do it and we can get it done. It's going to take care of things. But I also struggle with just trying to do that outlook and make sure we are as secure as we need to be. So kind of speaking out of both sides of my mouth, but that's just, again, I've been wrestling with this for a couple of weeks now as I think about it, and I've had about a 3-hour conversation on budgets with Darren, and I appreciate the time he's put with me, and we've had other conversations about it. So that's where I'm at.
I can appreciate that. I understand. I guess from the employer-employee standpoint, I think for good relations, we've planned for it. And I think the reason we're having savings is because we have good employees, and it's a lot easier to retain those and keep those and keep them working properly. I don't want to have to start replacing them, because it always costs a lot more to replace them.
Yeah.
So
you know, we don't want to be a training center and, like say, some of them they're stepped out. So this is just an additional thing. They've put a lot of time and into this job and their profession, so I guess I like it, and we planned for it, we budgeted for it, so
I'm not saying next year's gonna be easier.
no, next year will not be easier.
Okay. Well, I guess with that, I would move to approve the attached to budget adjustments, pay scale, and resolution 2025-11 to implement a 2.5% COLA adjustment to all Ellis County employees, contract positions, and elected officials effective June 22nd, which is the start of the 14th pay period of 2025.
I will second that.
Got a motion and a second on the table. Any further discussion about COLA adjustments?
I do, with your statement saying, and it meant a lot to me now that I'm absorbing that. Is there any way, like, next year that we can, like, say, have it in front of you in July or August, or does it need to be that this time of the year? As far as
Policy
the
states
Okay.
at a certain point throughout the year. However, as we're building next year's budget now, when you want to put it in, this year's budget is basically at the beginning of the 14th pay period. If you wanted to start that in January, I need to know that now, because I need to put more money into that line item for next year. Right now, it's set for that same 13th pay period, mid-year point, for what is budgeted in your draft budget. So we do have time to change it, yes. And at this point next year, you have options. The budget stabilization account is really two main purposes. One is to hold the funds for a COLA if the commission were to approve. The other is to help absorb any emergencies that we may have. Bridge failure, $1 million, easy. That could help do that. But also, we have total throughout the entire county budget, about 34 different departments. If a couple of those departments have individual emergencies, not as catastrophic as a bridge, but a couple of them go over budget here and there, that budget stabilization account helps absorb that. So we do have the flexibility, if the commission would like, to either move that up, which would cost a little bit more out of that stabilization line item, or push it back and implement the COLA raises later in the year, which would take less out of that line item. So there is flexibility. It's I completely agree with Commissioner Burgess's comments and statements. There's a lot of uncertainty in the world today, a lot of things that are changing. It's hard for our department heads to budget based on tariffs, based on medical supplies going up, protective gear. This is one thing that we can control locally, but in the back of all of our minds, it's hard to budget next year, not knowing. We're using essentially 2024 numbers in 2025 to create a 2026 budget, where we have a lot of uncertainty that we haven't had in the last couple of years.
Yeah, so, yeah, to clarify with Neil, that the COLA adjustment at any point, because that really, the step is set in the policy. The COLA adjustment is set by the commission at whatever point in the year. So if it's voted on earlier in the year, it costs more because you got more months. If it's voted on later in the year, it costs a little less because you're mid-year. That's kind of where we've, again, from policy standpoint, that's kind of how we get a beginning of the year step, mid-year, review the COLA, and then that way it's always kind of every 6 months. So it makes sense from a policy standpoint. But yeah, that's where the discretion still is at the commission at when that can be implemented.
And in regards to that, the previous pay study took 10+ years to get completed, to get completely implemented, and by the time we were done, we were behind. And Darren and our department heads and us as commissioners have spent a lot of time and energy trying to alleviate that, fix that problem.
Yes.
And I don't want to step on its toes first year out of the gate. So,
Makes sense.
you know, it'll cost us a lot more money. Darren, how much did it cost us this last time to do the whole study? Not man hours, but dollars. We contracted out.
The previously one that you were referring to back in 2015, for the Evergreen Studies, what it was referred to, I don't remember the actual company name, but I believe that price back in 2014 was $47,000, and we spent just over $20,000 on this current study, which surprising, because we spent about half the amount of money that we did on a study that wasn't very good, and we got lot better results on this study last year.
Okay.
We got a motion and a second on the table. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. No. Passes 2-1.
Okay.
So we're going to bring up for the 401A.
Good morning, Commissioners. Braden
Morning.
Park, Chair of the Wage and Benefits Committee. So, as you know, as you discussed just shortly ago, the wage and study last year made our jobs on the committee a little bit easier, one less task. So our biggest thing we deal with now is insurance, but other benefits that county employees bring up to us. Towards the beginning of this year, we had an employer reach out to us to look at adding tier to the 401A matching contribution. Currently, we have matching levels of 15, 30, and 45. After discussion with the committee, we talked whether we want to just do a 20, 40, 60, or just add the tier of 60, because there are employees that have a hard time week to week maintaining that $15 level, so we wanted to keep that available to them as an option. So we decided to come to you guys to ask for a $60 tier to add.
Okay.
I'm going to add some statistics and numbers to that while you're
Go ahead.
preparing hopefully about 15 questions for Braden to answer. But currently, we do have, roughly just over 200 employees. We have the $15, $30, and $45 tier. That $45 tier is spread out between 26 pay periods. Each pay period, if the employee contributes 45, the county matches at 45, and it goes into their retirement. We do have 109 employees that are within that $45 tier. Some of them are already contributing more than that. However, if all 109 would say, I want to move from my $45 tier to the $60 tier, that estimated expense, if all employees were to do that, would be just over $37,000 that would get added into the budget for next year. And I believe it's the wage and benefits recommendation would be effective January of 26, not right away. I guess they would take it right away if offered, but that's what those numbers kind of lay out for.
Okay.
Yeah, that was, I guess, my question. When would this potentially take effect? So January, so 26. Okay.
I personally would like more time to review it and chew through it before making a decision on it.
I guess, what kind of percentage are doing the 45? Any idea?
There's 109, it's either 109 or 117, but that's pretty close out of 200 employees. So when we first started this, out of all 200 employees, we only had $23 doing any of the 457 plan that had no match. Now we're up to collectively, we have just 109 in the $45, and there's, well, we looked at this last week, I would say about 130 to 140 total between the three different tiers that are doing it. So the goal of creating the 401A with the 457, the 401A is the matching piece that the county contributes to what the employees contribute. We went from 23, which was less than 10% of our, about 10% of our employees, to about 60% of our employees contributing overall, preparing for their retirement and their futures.
Okay.
Yeah, in general, I like the idea. I think take some time. We can put it as part of our budgeting process for wages and benefits as part of that, and have it as a consideration. I'd be more than happy to take a look at that. So,
I guess years ago, when I first come commissioner, I had brought that, said, plan for the future. Here it is. So it took about 5 years, but that's good. I really like that people are wanting to build for their retirement.
Yeah, and that's why we decided just to wait to start it till 2026, so, and come to you guys now while you're in that budgeting process.
We appreciate that.
mhm.
Okay, we'll have to review it before we make a decision.
Very good. Thank
Any
you.
other questions?
Thank you.
I don't.
Nope. I guess, Darren, maybe this was a question for Braden, but has there been like a poll or a survey done amongst employees about what people would want to participate in that?
No, not necessarily a poll. It's elective, and you can change your tiers throughout the year. It's not during open enrollment at the end of the year, so you can enroll and start whenever you want, and you can change whenever you want as well.
Okay.
So, no, we don't have a poll of how many would actually change or anything like that.
Okay.
If you're trying to maybe use that for a better number of what you're trying to budget for.
For
'cause
budget.
37,000, I won't say that's worst case scenario, but that's if everybody would move up. Most likely it would be less than that, but, because I couldn't say if all 109 employees would move up to a $60 tier or not. They would thank themselves in the future, when they're closer to retirement and such, but not everybody can make those steps like that.
Okay.
I got a question. Go back to outside agencies. We've heard the requests from everybody. So then we still have care counsel for 3/10 of a mil. Do we know what that amount is yet?
Off the top of my head, no, but it has been released to them because it was
Okay.
based on the 2024 3/10 of that mill amount. They have met, Brett Gable is looking at dates to come to present that amount next year, or next month.
So
to
they have the
commission.
amount and they're going through their allocation as a care counsel.
I believe they have all their allocations already decided, and he was actually just emailing me yesterday of trying to get a date set. So that is on top of that money that you see out there. But they are capped, so there shouldn't be an increase from what the commission has approved on that.
Yes, okay, thank you.
I do have a question for Bill at this time on some of our funding on these things. Not that I want to, but do we have the authority or ability to attach stipulations to our funding levels with some of these agencies or asks?
Bill Jeter, County Counselor, I don't know why you wouldn't be able to.
Okay.
You're not, other than a couple of them, you're not statutorily obligated to fund any of them.
Okay.
So it's totally within the discretion of the board whether to fund a nonprofit, how much to fund a nonprofit. I don't know why you couldn't put stipulations on it.
Okay. It's a question I've never heard
And
asked up
it's-
here.
Yeah, and it's also a year-to-year thing, so because you make a commitment this year doesn't mean you're obligated next year. So
Okay.
if they don't follow through on any conditions you may attach to it, then you would have the option of just not funding them the next year.
Okay. Very good. Well, thank you for
The only
clarification.
there would be a couple exceptions to that, High Plains Mental Health, DSNWK. You know, you've got some, they're
We've got
not
some
only
statute.
authorized by statute, but you've entered into interlocal agreements and have other stipulations attached to those by contract, which you need to provide funding there. But
Okay.
most of the nonprofits is purely discretionary with the commissioners.
Okay.
to go back to Commissioner Burgess's question, the 2024 final valuation of the mill levy was approximately $536,000, but the 3/10 mill allocation that was given to the Care Council for their disbursement was $160,995. So that's the number that they're working with that's set. And then that new number won't be set until the final valuations are completed by the clerk's office in November, which then it'll be shared with the Care Council when they review in 2025 for the 2027 budget.
With that, you got administrator report?
No, sir.
Looking at you, Nathan. Yep.
I have no report this week.
Neil?
Yep, I sat down and talked with one of the city commissioners, which is Sean Musel, had some nice talk, and also went to the city workshop last week. Then I did go to the ribbon cutting for Chris Munch, his business. Mentioned he took another business on, and I think he's going to take some more businesses on, but he's a big help to our community. And then I also did go to the Shenshin meeting, pretty short. I did take a look at the building that we're going to be putting another garage door in, if you want to comment on any of that. So the public knows, and
Yeah, I guess I haven't shared it with the other commissioners
oh,
yet. but-
okay. I seen the head. It's all headered out and everything. Somebody planned back when. So
The fire department put a grant request into the Department of Interior for a new asset to put essentially a skid unit, a fire pump and tank on the back of I won't go into the details. Anyway, we were awarded the grant. The plan was to use our current vehicle that we have and reallocate that out to the Shinshin Fire Department. We were notified on Friday afternoon, late in the afternoon, that we got that grant. So now the next piece is we'll get bids from the Shinshin Fire Station to add in that second door. Basically, it's going to be removing the panels, installing a garage door, and a little bit of concrete work to remove the stem wall as you drive in and out. So that will be coming to the county commission in the future for approval.
okay, sorry, I didn't know that you had not visited with them, but anyhow, like I say, somebody was thinking back when, and that's nice. And the only thing else I have is thank all our head departments and all our employees for the job that they do, and I appreciate it.
Couple things I attended. I attended a City of Hayes meeting last week. I also attended the Masquerade on Main with the Benefit for High Plains Mental Health, and first Larks game on Sunday. Big crowd. Excited about the season again, defending their championship. And then I got a couple other comments regarding budget. We're scheduled currently, I believe, for July 22nd for an all-day budget meeting, as we do each year. I'd like my fellow commissioners to maybe consider moving that to the 21st, the 22nd. I can attend, but I am also scheduled to be in Pleasanton, Kansas that evening, which is about a 4-hour drive. So just for my convenience, if the commission may consider the 21st, the day before, to give me a little more leeway, but
I'm available, but how does that reflect? Because we had to schedule that with all of our department heads and publish that.
I can shoot out if the commissioners want to change that to the 21st, I can send that out to the executive team and make sure that there's no conflicts. That would be a Monday.
Yes.
Which is everybody's favorite day of the week, but I'd say most likely we can make that work. If there is a department head that can't make it, in the past, we've just brought them back to the commission meeting before for you to be able to discuss their budgets with them at a meeting.
yeah,
Okay,
Yeah, I'm good with that.
I'm good with that.
okay. Appreciate that. Then I'm gonna make some more general comments as we go into budget and not really direction, and I don't expect my fellow commissioners to react or have any comment after I make my comments, because of course, I haven't talked to you on any of these things, but it kind of goes back to just, made some comments last week and today and on some of the things I'm voting on about my concerns of just overall economic, I call it economic paralysis, and that's one major concern that I have going into our budget season. But that's not I guess, the biggest concern, because economics change every year. Sometimes they're good, sometimes they're bad. You always have to budget for that stuff, and you always have to kind of figure that out. My other concern going into the budget is just what state legislature keeps trying to do regarding revenue neutral and maintaining local budgets as neutral as possible. And so, again, I think that's a bigger concern on my part. Again, it's really hard to predict the future on whether they're going to pass anything like that or not. So I'm just kind of proposing just a thought exercise at this point for my fellow commissioners. If our budget's $36 million, if we didn't exceed revenue neutral, I mean, I think we're going to anyway. But last week, as we went through the budget, we're fairly flat, we're fairly stable, and we may be able to maintain that mill, maybe even cut it very, very slightly. And again, I commended our department heads for being able to get us to that point. As I think about it, though, in the next year, what would it mean if we went ahead and exceeded it, but let's say like by a mill, and added $1 million to our budget in 2026 to put towards, whatever we need to, either build up our reserves a little more, or find another bridge, and get ahead on some projects. And the other reason I'm kind of proposing that, just as a thought at this point, is if legislation then came back and said we've passed a revenue neutral policy, it would probably give us a couple years where we would easily be able to maintain revenue neutral at that point, because we've already built in that cap ahead of time, and to give us cushion over budgets. And then again, if we would commit to saying we're going to stay revenue neutral in 27, 28, where we're building in reserves, or we're taking care of other projects ahead of time, so that way we can stay revenue neutral in 27, 28. So those are kind of, over the last several weeks, as we get into our budget season, there's just some thoughts that I've been mulling over on my outlook over the next year and beyond, as far as economics that may impact us, and as far as what legislation may impact us. So those are my final comments. Again, I don't expect you either to react or have any further comments on it at this time. Just wanted to kind of put that out there as we, again, head into our budget season here over the next month and a half. So,
Appreciate the comments.
Yep.
No executive session, so we will adjourn at 10:32.